Hello everybody! Today we'll be going over Docker Compose storj-node and monitoring deployment. This project is designed for easy and fast multi-node deployment as all-in-one solution. First, we are going to install Docker. Keep in mind that you can skip this step if you already have Docker installed. So this is a Debian server, there is nothing on it, just regular tools, and it's like minimum installation. Let's update apt and we will install required software. Just wait for a moment until it's done. Let's make a keyrings directory and download a gnupg for Docker. We'll be using the official release, so not the release that is included with Debian itself. Let's update apt again. We will be installing Docker. Let's check that Docker is installed and running correctly. We can see the Docker is active. We are going to deploy portainer. This step is optional. This is the brand new installation. Of course, the package is not downloaded. It has now downloaded and it is deploying. Let's check if it's running correctly. Yes, everything seems to be perfectly fine. Let's switch to the browser and continue the installation. This is the portainer UI. So we'll be prompted for the username and password. So let's create a password. Okay, I slide mistake. We don't need to send statistics and create a user. This is how portainer looks like. Here is our environment. Currently, we only have one image, which is portainer communication itself. Only one container running. Next, we are going to prepare for node deployment. Let's make sure we are in our home directory. We will want to clone the Git repository for storj-log exporter. Let's go into the directory and docker build the storj-log export. So now we are building Docker image. This is only needed one time. Once it's built, we can use it as many times as we want. Let's check the images. Docker image list. We can see that storj-log exporter is created. Now we are going to start deploying the node. First, we are going to create a file system used for node data. There are multiple ways to identify which disk to use. So I already mounted one 600 GB disk for this virtual machine where we are going to test the implementation. There are two ways I usually go about it. First, let's start the most advanced way I usually use, which is ls hardware. This requires installing a package. Scan the all hardware and we can see everything on this machine. This will be our disk we'll be using, so vdb. Another way is just to use fdisk, disk L. That will show us all the disk we have and all its partitions. Here we can see our main disk, which is used by VM, and then we have vdb. You can see there are no partitions on it. Let's partition the disk first. We can check free space on the disk, so we can see there is 600 GB free. There is nothing on this disk. It's completely new and empty. So let's create a new partition. It will be primary. Number 1, we can keep all the defaults. Partition has been created. Write data. Check using fdisk again. And we can see our partition that we have created, db1. Now we have to format it. Make file system ext4 on vdb1. File system is done. To mount a directory, we need to do two things. First, we need to create a directory where we will mount. It will be under mnt and it will be called node01. Next, we need to edit fstab. Add the configuration line, def vdb1. Target is mnt node 01. File system is ext4. Parameters will be adding no a time and no dir a time and 0, 0. We don't need checks. Now mount everything and we can check that it's mounted. Yes, we can see it's mounted correctly. This will be our data store for storj-node. Now with file system ready, we head over to storj.io/node and generate our auth token. We need to enter our email. Click that we are not a robot, of course, and hit continue. This has generated our auth token for this particular node. Let's copy it somewhere safe. Now that we have our token, let's create an identity for our first node. Make sure we are in our home directory, and we will download latest identity binary from GitHub. We will need to unzip the package. Make sure it's executable. And we are going to create identity for node 01. This will generate multiple keys. As you can see, there are a number of keys, and it is looking for difficulty higher than 36. This will of course take a really long time depending on your CPU and luck, so we have to wait. Certificate has been generated. Now we need to authorize it. We'll use similar command, identity authorize node 01, and we need to add our token. And it is successfully authorized using single-use authorization token. I will check that certificates are correct. First command, we should always respond with 2. Second command with 3. This means that our certificates are fine. Next step is to initialize the storj-node. This will take just a bit. So node has been deployed. Now the initialization will run. And it's done. Now we are ready to deploy the node. Let's make sure we are in our home directory. Next, we'll need to delete the configuration file that was deployed with the node. This is because the configuration file is distributed with a compose, and if we left config YAML in there, it would cause issues with exporter. Let's check out code for our node from GitHub and name it storj-node01. We will use as set to must place xx201 in the environment file. Let's edit the environment file. We can see that everything is now 01. We'll need to enter our email address. We'll need to change our server name. This is an external name for your connection. We need to specify the storage. It will be 500 GB. We need to add our wallet. So this is how we will be paid. Node is nmt node 01, which is correct, and identity is correct as well. Let's save. Now we will go into the directory and deploy the compose. For the first time, it needs to download all the images, and then deployment started. Now it's deployed. Let's check it. Now we can see everything has been deployed. We can now check that node is running on portainer. Let's click on containers, and we can also see here that everything is running. Now let's check on our node. So it will always be port 14.0 and then non-number, so 01. Here we can see that node is online, QUIC is okay, and as we can see, we are already getting data. I recommend changing here into dark mode. Next, we can also check if we are getting correct data from exporter and log exporter. Curl 127.0.0.1. and port 96 and then node number, which is 01. We can see that we are getting data. And for log export, it's 97 and node number. And here we can see that we are also getting data. This step is optional if you want to check if everything is running fine. Other than that, you are safe to skip it. Next, we are going to deploy host exporter, which is used to gather Docker host statistics. So let's make sure we are in our home directory again, and then we need to check out code from our GitHub under the name storj-host01. We will again use set to replace exec with 01 in our environment file. There is nothing in the environment file except a host number. Let's go into directory and deploy. That's done. Now we can check if it is running. You can see that everything is fine. And we can also check if we are getting data using curl. So port is always 19 and then host number. Now we can see it is running. We have metrics available. And as we can see, we are getting data. Next, we'll be deploying the UI. As usual, make sure we are in our home directory. We'll need to create directories for Prometheus and Grafana. So usually they should be on the separate mount point, but for purposes of this tutorial, we are going to use just a regular directory. This will be mnt exporter for this case, but you can change it, and Prometheus and Grafana. We'll need to grant access for everyone into these two directories, so it's accessible from outside correctly. Next, we will deploy the UI from our GitHub. Now let's go into the store UI directory and we need to modify the environment. These directories are already preset. We will use secret123 as a password. Of course, you should change it to something else. And this is the host name, so where the Docker is running. Normally this should be domain name, but right now we will just change it to IP address. Next, we need to edit Prometheus YAML, and we will be adding the host itself. So this just means we will replace 01 and 01. For now, we will remove the node and we'll add it in the next step. Now let's deploy it. That's done. Let's see if everything is running. So there are many images in this one. So we have Grafana that is running. We have PHP. We have Prometheus. Nginx that's running. Let's check it on the web. We'll go on the stacks and UI stack. You can see everything here. Let's have a look at the UI itself. If you browse to host IP or the host name, we'll get a list of all available web interfaces that we created. For example, the node we deployed earlier. Now we have to go to Prometheus and check that we are getting data. As we can see, host exporter metrics are being gathered. Everything's working fine. Next, we need to go into Grafana. Now this is just the default interface you will get when you first deploy. Let's have a look at dashboards. So we have general, there is nothing. We need to import our dashboards. So first we will import dashboard exporter combine, which is for nodes. Change sources to Prometheus and import. As you can see, we don't have any data because nodes are not configured in Prometheus yet. We'll do this in the next chapter. Let's go back into dashboards. We can see this one here. We still have one more dashboard to import, and then will be for node exporter. Change the source to Prometheus again. And here we can see that we are getting data from node exporter. Let's change to last 30 minutes. We can see data being gathered and displayed perfectly fine. There is a lot to see. For example, now for meta configuration, let's go into the main configuration. Okay, let's save dashboard. Users, themes, plugins, nothing much to change here. But in preferences, I recommend changing home dashboard to exporter table combined. And start week really depends on your preferences. For me, it's Monday. And save. That means when we open Grafana, we'll always get 2 node statistics. Our next step is to add the node that we have created into Prometheus. So let's go into storj-UI directory. We'll need to edit Prometheus YAML, and we can use this example. All that we need to do is to replace XX with the node number. Remember to not change any ports because this is using the internal Docker network that is part of Compose. And if you want to add more nodes, just copy this example as many times as you want and increment node number. Now we need to update Docker Compose down. Don't mind the error, that's because the storj bridge network is used by other containers. We'll start it up. Now we can verify the data from node are being gathered correctly. So let's have a look into Prometheus. We can now see there is storj-node 01. And we can see both exporter and log exporter are up and running. Now let's have a look in Grafana. We can see our node 01 right here. Don't mind that there is NA everywhere because that just means that we don't have enough data to show in the default period, which is 7 days. So let's switch it to 5 minutes. And as we can see, we have all the data. This one requires a longer period, so it will be fine. And with that, we reach the end of our tutorial. I hope you found this helpful and it will help you to deploy as many nodes as you would like. So here at the end, let me show you my deployment. As you can see, we have 8 nodes in this setup. And have a look at one of them. Then we can have a look at the Prometheus that actually has many nodes. You can see everything shows up. Everything is running. And we can have a look at Grafana, something that is running for a long time. So we have here statistic for 7 days. You can see how it looks when everything is running for a long time. And also let's have a peek at host statistics. So that will be node exporter. This is the Docker host itself. As you can see, I'm only using 2 cores and 4 GB of RAM, and everything is running perfectly fine. Look at file systems, for example, network traffic. Not all data are available here because I'm only running it on the VM. But this will be it, so have fun!